There we go. Hello, party people. So, after much tiring work, um, and some absolute asshat accidentally screwing up and deleting the file folder that all my files were in for this video, I've rewatched Venom a second time. Yes, that means I watched it 3 times. Venom: The Last Dance, and yeah, I suffer for you people because the first watch I was like, yeah, this isn't that bad. On the second watch, ooh dear, have things changed. So, yeah. So, first thing first, I absolutely want to say thanks to Simon JJ for his Ko-Fi donation. Thank you very much. I absolutely appreciate all the support you've given me over the years. And you are, in fact, my longest running supporter. So, thank you. Um, I absolutely needed that money when it came in. So, that definitely came in at exactly the right time. So, again, thank you very much. And if you guys would like to support me, um, I have to point out I've tried to avoid it. I want to be professional as much as I can. Uh, but currently, the merch is going to stay on Redbubble because Fourth Wall's a bunch of, well, anyway. Um, we'll try to avoid profane slander right off the beginning of this video. Uh, but yeah, we're probably not going to ever see me using Fourth Wall. And there's a damned good reason for that. But anyway, let's get into the review here. So, getting my cursor over where it should be. Okay, so, oh, and that's actually a little high. Just 1 second here. Let me just make a little change to the browser. There we go. Okay, so now, uh, the movie starts with, and I've got copious notes now. And this time, yeah, I actually wrote them friggin' down this time so that I wouldn't lose them again because everything else had been digital. So the opening, and this is not a knock against the movie. I think it was actually necessary, so not bad. They start off with an opening that shows you Null, gives you exposition about how they're dealing with the idea of a codex this time in this adaptation. It's fairly well done, fairly concise, so that's good. They did change a couple of things from the comics, which is going to have to be expectable considering they don't have the licensing rights to Spider-Man specifically. One of the big changes was that the symbiotes are no longer, well, they are technically still Null's children, but now they're Null's enemies rather than his tools. Yeah, let's see. The first scene is a callback to the end credits from Spider-Man No Way Home. Very drunk Eddie, and apparently a drunk Venom, though you wouldn't think Venom could get drunk. Uh, yeah, it does kind of feel like Tom Hardy is at the point of having had enough of playing this character. It's not phoned in by any means. Give Tom Hardy credit where credit is due. He's a frigging solid professional, and he's doing his damnedest to do a good job. It's what he's working with that might be questionable. And I will point out now that the film is directed by a female who was also the screenwriter for all three, and it shows. It's her first directorial director film. I don't necessarily want it to be her last, but I have a feeling it might be. Also, for some reason, in the end credits, Tom Hardy has a writing credit, though that's interesting. I'm guessing Hardy decided to take a bit of a hand in guiding where this character should be at this point in his journey. Let's see. Uh, there are some decent comedy elements. I mean, this scene here where Venom is fixing himself, well, technically he's fixing Eddie a drink. It's not bad. Uh, and there is a scene or a part in this scene where there's a news story that does tie it into, I believe, the first film, though maybe the second. It's been a while since I saw either one of them, so. Uh, there's a scene fairly quickly after this where Venom hears dogs screeching in pain, yelping basically, and decides to go help. And they do make a reference to oh, sorry. Before I come to this, actually, still in the bar, there's a moment where Eddie talks about going to New York, which is obviously it's a running theme in this movie that they're going to go to New York. Uh, and it does kind of get paid off at the end. I won't spoil that on the way there, but yeah. Uh, there's a point where Tom Hardy muses, or sorry, Eddie Brock. I'll try to keep that straight because I want to be nice to Tom. I like Tom. Uh, but there's a point where you start to wonder if Eddie is really all that much of a hero, and given his scumbag comic book roots, makes sense. Uh, and yes, don't feed me any of the, oh, they turned him into a good character later. Yeah, no, they did. That's fine. But that's not who we're talking about here. But he talks about blackmailing a judge that he has some dirt on. Very heroic. Good job. Uh, Apparently my camera's gotten moved at some point. Oop, wrong way. Just a second. There we go. Now I'm a little more centered. Uh, as I was saying, there is a point where they have to go and they decide rather to go and rescue some dogs, partly because Venom wants fuel for the road. He wants to eat some brains, and they do call themselves the Lethal Protector. Well, fair, yeah, that's a reference to the '90s comic book where most of the symbiotes came from. The dialogue isn't bad in this scene, actually. It's quite nice. There's a lot of rule of cool through this whole movie, and a lot of the time it does get used well. But there are moments when it's really, really bad. Let's see. This isn't one of those moments, actually. This is actually really cool, and it sets up a great payoff later. And I will point out the next screenshot that I'm going to show you is absolutely full on 90s rule of cool because, of course, they have this banter back and forth. The guy threatens Eddie with a knife, cuts his face actually at one point, and yeah, the payoff is it's pretty good. Hola, bitches. I did very much grin and enjoy this particular scene. But yeah, like I say, it's pure '90s anti-hero rule of cool. And to be honest, when it came to comics in the '90s, the rule of cool was pretty damn neat. Uh, oh yeah, I had to squint at my notes because I was writing them in a hurry, and I'm very tired, so I wasn't exactly being the best penman. Uh, but there's a moment during the fight scene here, and the fight is fairly generic, not bad, just generic. But there is one scene where Hardy pulls off. He's wearing a pair of Crocs, which I think is absolutely hilarious. But there's a point where he pulls it off and whips it at a guy across the room. So he basically pulls the Chunkalo maneuver, which, yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. Plus, it does set up a bit of comedy later. Uh, I will point out, too, there is a moment uh, right after this scene where, and I might as well name them now, the xenophages, or one of the xenophages, shows up and is stalking Eddie and Venom. And it passes by some of these rescued dogs, and someone actually trained or managed to handle the dog in such a way that it did a double take. Like it literally turned its head twice. And I have to say, I don't generally notice technical details like how the animals have been handled, but that one moment was damn good, and I really hope it wasn't CGI. If it was an animal handler's idea or management, good job. Ah, now, continuing a fine tradition of cross-continuity actors working in both Marvel and DC universes and various movie studio universes, we get to meet Chiwetel, and I'm going to probably butcher his first name, but Chiwetel or Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's not exactly the bad guy, sort of. He's a bad guy, but he's kind of a subplot villain. Not connected to Null in any way, but yeah, I do actually thoroughly enjoy his character as well. I suspect he and Hardy probably did this movie because they wanted to work together. They're both fairly well known award winning actors, so yeah. Uh, yeah, he's playing General Strickland in this one, which I think is a reference to another character from the Venom comic book continuity, uh, which I'll reference again later. But then they introduce the female lead. Uh, I'll come to this screenshot in just a second. Believe me, it's irritating. But they introduce the female lead. Actually, that might be the next screenshot. Yes, it is. Sorry. Uh, well, in any case, it turns out that Strickland operates out of Area 51, which is being decommissioned. Apparently, one of the things they're doing to decommission Area 51 is dissolving everything in hyperacid. Um, I will point out that I titled this particular screenshot "fucking what," not only because it says hyperacid, but also because it says dissolvent. Uh, sure, go ahead and treat your friggin' audience like a bunch of idiots by putting the incorrect prefix "dis" on the word solvent. For the record, acid is a solvent. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, they do intro the female lead, played by Juno Temple, who's not conventionally attractive, but not bad looking exactly. Uh, but they intro her with uh, a flashback dream sequence, and uh, of course, Strickland contacts her to let her know that they're bringing in one of the symbiote's victims from an earlier film. That'll become important later, though I don't think I have a single screenshot of him, though I should have. But yeah, sorry. The bar scene, the news story, they talk about a cop named Mulligan that was impaled at some point, and they, of course, are blaming Eddie for it. They find Mulligan off screen and bring him to Area 51, which turns out to actually be Area 55. Once you get through this, I will say it's creative, though kind of idiotic. It's great visual. It's a dust fall. Yeah, she drives through a dust fall into a tunnel. Um, the only question I can ask is, why the fuck would you bother with this? Was nobody on the effects team pointing out to you that this was a dumb idea? Or was this maybe originally conceived as a waterfall that you could drive through in the fucking desert? Yeah. Uh, anyway, she turns out to be part of the same shadowy organization as Strickland, of course, which I want to say seems to be connected to the U.S. military, but it's weird. I almost want to think they're some sort of special forces contractor who have been contracted to shut down Area 51 and given permission to build this Area 55 thing, though there's an Imperium program as well. It's weird. Uh, yeah, and one more thing about the female lead, Dr. Payne. She's apparently chasing her dead brother's dream of working in Area 51 with aliens. They never explain why she's doing that, other than the fact that he died saving her, well, sort of ish, by chance, saving her life. Yeah, and yeah, we did just see Chekhov's hyperacid dissolvent. Oh, I have issues with this. Yeah, acid hyper dis solvent. Yeah, and why you need a retina scan to turn on an acid bath is beyond me. Uh, we get the only really, really good reference to Venom's wall crawling ability here. Uh, yeah. Oh, one thing I did note as well. All the important scientists in this movie are women. Yeah. Um, I suspect the black scientist Sadie Christmas and Strickland might have been intended to be more of a relationship. Uh, Lead female science girl is more focused on not infecting symbiotes from a different room. Yeah, they don't actually physically interact with the symbiotes after the decontamination procedure. They go into a different room that's sealed off from the chamber the symbiotes are in, or the symbiote Mulligan is in. Uh, let's see. Yeah, when I would have been worried more about them being improved by being exposed to something we carry, or killing us. uh, they do make some very strange choices with toxin. Uh, Later on in the movie, he moves as if there's no gravity in the room, which I'm sure that'll come back up in the notes. Uh, and the just the dialogue choices they use for him when he speaks through Mulligan the first time. Uh, yeah, I won't spoil it, but I will say, well, I'll spoil it sort of. I will say if you do watch this movie, watch for the facial expression and do your best not to either cringe or laugh. They did mean for it to be taken seriously after all. Uh, yeah, the plane scene here, uh, the Spider-Man pose I did notice. There's some interesting action. The comedy gets really strained here. There's a good callback to the character origin, and probably the closest we'll ever get to another Sony Spider-Man movie. Shame. Uh, oh, then they introduce Reese Evans. Oh, actually, before we get to that, there's a really unfortunate pose that Eddie decides to take as Venom is retracting. Yeah, this isn't the wrong screenshot. This is kind of where the focus of his retraction is. It does, in fact, look like the Venom parachute retracts directly up his butthole. Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, it was after this that they introduced Reese Ifans, but I didn't save any of the screenshots for that because, well, they're very bland. He's extremely irresponsible, though, because he's got two kids, a dog and a wife, and they cashed out their life savings to drive the extraterrestrial highway and go to Area 51 so that Dad could see it. Uh, that's bad enough. They're also vegan hippies, and they don't feed their kids meat. Yeah. And then they try to feed Venom something that isn't meat. And there's a half decent chuckle to be had from the way that he reacts to that meal. Let's see. Yep, they have a very irrelevant dog. And that made me wonder who the director was. And then I discovered it was Kelly Marcel, who's also the screenwriter. And yeah, the only thing I can think is she must be a dog person. Uh, yeah. Uh, they do take significant creative license with Null's story. The horsey section, and the word horsey features a lot. It's interesting. It's a bit of diversionary fun, but and to be fair, especially when it's tied to the soundtrack that they used the song "Having a Good Time" by Queen. At least I think that's what it's called. A lot of songs from that era, I tend to think of them in terms of their most common line. Um, yeah, the over reliance on too much comedy does take some of the punch out of the movie, and it does take some of the punch out of the comedy. The comedy is a little too thick in this, and occasionally a bit too forced. Oh yeah, okay. Next slide. The contrast between Strickland and Payne is good. Juno Temple isn't a bad actress. She definitely holds her own next to Ejiofor. Uh, like watching these two interact, it's enjoyable, and it does seem like whatever was scripted for them stayed the same consistently. Not like with uh, this lady, the unnecessary Sadie Christmas, who seems to exist only to further the plot and be a token black person. We'll come to that one in just a second. But yeah, The more I watched this movie, the more I got the feeling that, well, you'll see. But anyway, this made absolutely no fucking sense to me at all. Why would you drop soldiers from harnesses and have them flying in a helicopter, uh, rather than simply, rappelling out the back or what have you? Why would you drop them into rapids? Yes, that's what they do. They drop them into rapids because they're chasing Venom. Yeah. Uh, I'm sorry, but the look on Tom Hardy's face here says, "I'm just here for the money, man." And now, to be fair, this may be the very end of a media campaign. He might just be tired. I'll give him a break there. There is some. Oh dear, I seem to have jumped a bit. Did I? No, no, I didn't. Uh, I'll leave this one up. This one I titled meta commentary because there's a point where Eddie's voice, obviously in Venom's head, and yeah, that is Venom's ass crack. Have fun watching that while I talk about the rest of this movie. The contrast between Strickland and Payne is good. Uh, the rule of cool moment with the river drop troopers, the dropping the troopers into the rapids, was very strange. There's a great series of CGI morphing from Venom, and that's the symbiote by itself. It releases Eddie, which I would have thought would be something it wouldn't want to do, but uh, they're trying to get away from the xenophage, and being separated makes it easier. Another plot point that didn't really need to be run, but anyway. I did point out that the xenophage kills look like an alien wood chipper. Kind of cool, but it's rule of cool, and it's stretched rule of cool. Uh, there's some bad editing. At one point, after one of the troopers gets killed, and Strickland is on a, a video chat with Payne, she asks if he got any samples. So she acts in a very callous, scientifically concerned, but callous manner. Uh, and there's a moment where Sadie, in the same shot, kind of looks down and looks kind of shamefaced. And then it cuts back to Ejiofor angrily shutting off the video chat. I think those two shots should have been flipped. I think we should have had the shot of Ejiofor angrily turning off the video chat before we saw Sadie looking shamed. But that's me. Um, yeah, that's one instance of what looked to me like bad narrative editing. But that's me. Uh, let's see. Yeah. There are a lot of angsty lines from Eddie on the way to Vegas. This is in Vegas. Uh, that's interesting. I never noticed that the screen past them says Mrs. Chen. But there's a lot of angst on their way to Vegas, and we discover that the first movie and the events of this movie are less than a year apart, or around a year apart. Okay, that makes sense. Uh, it would make sense for the angst to still be there after a little less than a year. Uh, One thing that was pointed out on the IMDb page is that Venom does a lot of quoting from pop culture. Where would he have picked it up? But yeah, yeah, and there's the note about toxins movements looking like there's no gravity in the room. Now, I'm not sure if Clark Bacco is exactly how she pronounces it. That's Sadie. But I did point out she's a wholly unnecessary character who seems to be a race swap self insert by Marcel because she's, Black Boss Bitch at some point. And she's definitely a Deus Ex Machina a couple of times. The worst part of the movie, yeah. There are some decent musical references in the film. Queen had, of course, been in the horse sequence. Uh, the Reese Ifans family, and I don't even remember their names because they're really kind of unimportant. Uh, excuse me. There's one point where they do a sing along of, and of course, I want to say ground control to Major Tom, but as I understand it, the actual song is Space Oddity by David Bowie. So, I mean, there's Queen, Bowie, some Cat Stevens, ABBA. This is actually an ABBA medley that they're dancing to. I will say that Tom Hardy singing Space Oddity in Venom's voice is quite the experience. That was fun. And I did point out that it does seem like even through the music, you can hear him smiling while he's singing. Uh, yeah, the dialogue between Reese Ifans and Tom Hardy is like watching Kasparov and Fisher play Crazy Eights. Because it's the dialogue. You know these guys are massively talented, but the dialogue is just trash. I think they were trying to. I think there was some vacillation about what Reese Ifans' character was supposed to be, whether he was supposed to be 100% humorous or closer to 90% serious, and it just doesn't play well. Oh, there's a point before they run into Mr. Chen that Tom Hardy has to acquire a tuxedo in order to get into this hotel, which in real life doesn't actually have a dress code. Uh, but the fun trivia points that I found is that Tom Hardy's stuntman was the guy who peed on his feet. So that's pretty cool. Uh, there's some bonding between Venom and Eddie, but it feels rehashed. Like it feels like something that should have happened long before, and probably has. Uh, yeah. Uh, this is the page of my research notes. I discovered also that this was Kelly Marcel's first directing job, and I mean, I'd love to direct, but I wouldn't start that big. I'd do something like shorts or something first. I don't know why she was selected or why she took the job. Uh, it's the kind of thing where you're looking at a multi-million dollar budget and or possibly even multiple tens of millions, maybe even over 100 million budget for this. I don't know. I didn't check, but wow, why would you take this on as your first job? You had to have been absolutely completely aware that if you screwed this up, you were never getting another directing job. And if you screwed it up bad enough, you might never get another writing job. Oh, this is another film that we're talking about different universes and stuff. Uh, Reese Ifans, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Andy Serkis, who actually plays Null in this. Uh, they're all, of course, from other comic book uh, properties, other pop culture properties. Oh, I don't want to mention that yet. Um, the tuxedo thing, the tuxedo scene. There's a scene about how they're acquiring the tuxedo. Actually, makes me think Tom Hardy could do physical comedy and probably do it very well. Uh, but yeah, this sudden Mrs. Chen ex machina that struck me as very, very weird. I understand people probably like the character. I always found her kind of annoying, but that's me. Uh, but I don't really see what this entire sequence adds to the movie. Uh, and yeah, it's kind of a stupid thing for a fugitive to do, go into a casino and make a spectacle of himself. But and like I say here, but then the show must go on. Yeah, it's pushing the plot forward, not letting it flow. Uh, the meta commentary from Eddie is, when did you two practice this? And that's a very good question because they've only been bonded for a year, and when would Mrs. Chen and Venom have done this that Eddie wouldn't be aware of it? There's a running gag with shoes, which uh, really, could you tell me any harder that it was a woman that wrote and directed this? Uh, and I suspect that it was Marcel who kept it in. Uh, it's kind of a silly running gag, but okay. I mean, everybody appreciates a good pair of shoes, but still, it's a bit much. Oh, yeah, let's, speaking of the irresponsible hippie vegan, the family that breaks into a military installation together probably dies together. And they also have a shithead for a father. Uh, and yeah, the next note I made was there are a lot of bad choice, move the plot along moments in this movie. Yeah. Excuse me. The more I watch this, the more I believe, or yeah, became sure that this film was written from the beginning, which isn't bad. You can start a story wherever you want. The problem is it's a good idea to have at least some idea of where it ends up fairly quickly before you start working on the entire narrative. And I don't really get the impression that this one did. Uh, and yeah, there's a moment where Eddie is suddenly wearing a ring on this finger, and there's no real reason for it unless he stole it from the guy he took the tuxedo from, which, that's kind of ignorant because that it's a plain band. It might be a wedding ring. That's really dickish move. Uh, oh yeah, and there are some brutal errors in this film. Like when I spotted the ring, I was like, oh geez, I wonder how many bad continuity errors there are in this movie. Oof, there is quite a few. But here's one. Somehow, after Eddie gets captured and taken to Area 51, the Xenophage just shows up, even though Eddie and Venom were completely separated when the soldiers took them, or the Special Forces guys, the Imperium took them. Yeah, that, what? So how did the Xenophage get there? Because they have to be bonded, and Venom has to be showing himself fully in order for the Xenophage to track them. I mean, that's kind of a very big continuity error. I will, of course, play compliment sandwich game here and point out CGI for the symbiotes is actually really good. Uh, I mean, Venom obviously looks friggin' amazing, uh, but even the other symbiotes, and there's a couple, two or three at least here, and even they look really good. Uh, oh, another continuity error though is all these symbiotes just randomly connect to new hosts. The first film made that seem like it didn't happen easily. Apparently, the show must go on, so we'll ignore that. Yeah, uh, more continuity. Oh yeah, and even within one simple scene, there's bad continuity. There's one scene where, let me see, is this the one I'm looking for? No, that's a different reference, but we'll come to that in just a second, which is why Strickland kind of got laid aside. But there's another really, really bad continuity error. At one point, the family gets saved, of course, by Eddie and the other symbiotes because they want to show how good the symbiotes are. Uh, but they get saved, and had to adjust how I'm sitting. They get saved, and it's Dr. Payne who, in her truck, comes and saves them by running over. I think it's the Xenophage that she runs over. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I watched this movie 3 times and I don't remember all the details. That should tell you something. My recommendation is not going to be high. Uh, yeah, and I do apologize for how long this is going, but I'm intent on being thorough this time. Again, I pointed out there was no purpose to the family's dog. Payne's truck, coming back to the rescue moment. There's one moment where I believe it's Eddie lifts the young fellow into the back of the truck and turns to look at the action. And I think it's 5, maybe 6 cuts later, uh, we see the kid being put in the truck again. Did he jump out? Was he trying to flee from his family who were trying to save him? right? It's just terrible. And yeah, there's no purpose to the family's dog. He was left at the van outside the fence, and he just sat there and stayed there like a good boy. Which, okay, sure, definitely Kelly Marcel was a dog person. Now, this one here, you can see that this soldier, who apparently is named Thompson, is getting his legs bitten off and does get saved. If you're a comic book nerd, you already know what I'm talking about. If you're not, Agent Venom. Yeah. Which would also explain why, you know, excuse me, why they have Strickland, Rex Strickland, as Ejiofor. Though that's a race swap character as well. Not a big deal, though. It's a minor character. Um, the vegan hippie alien nutjob is capable of handling a rocket launcher. Yeah. Uh, at one point, Venom and Eddie are in trouble. And yeah, Reese Ifans, who is a hippie vegan alien nutjob, who surrendered all his life savings, his family's savings, simply to take a trip in a Volkswagen microbus across the desert to Area 51, somehow knows how to handle sophisticated military hardware. Okay. The whole point of it was that somebody wanted to insert another pointless joke where he goes, "Sorry, I'm sorry," and runs away. If he's a coward, why would he ever have picked up the rocket launcher? Written by a woman. Here we have, and I did mention it, there is a scene in between those last two shots where Eddie and Venom are kind of squirreled away a little bit in a bit of safety out of the main fighting. And Venom goes from having been childish and immature this entire movie to suddenly being a self-sacrificing hero savior figure. Very mature. Um, fuck. It's jarring. It happens so fast, that personality switch. Here we have Chekhov's retina scan. I'm sorry, I can't call it anything else. It's Chekhov's retina scan. There's no need for it other than to make this guy important. Uh, oh, yeah. Then there's the next shot that really pissed me off. Guess whose hand that is? That's Dr. Payne. Guess what she's holding? She's holding a symbiote sample vial. Yeah, she watched all this shit going on and didn't bother to break this vial, which she does in the very next shot, and bond with a symbiote to save anybody other than the black woman when she gets in trouble. Yeah, all those soldiers, all those men, they are not important. But by God, if that black woman is in trouble, we have to do everything possible to save her. Yeah. Can't believe I didn't notice that when I watched it the first time. Uh, so yeah, there's loads of fighting and things like that. There is one moment where there's a big explosion, and Eddie ends up splayed out here. Um, do you see it? Because I do. Yeah, that is in fact the ICP Hatchet Man. You know, I may or may not be a ninja, but holy crap, that looks a lot like what I'm looking at. I was very tempted to make this shot the thumbnail. I won't. But yeah, because I'd probably get copyright struck from two people or two different corporations. Uh, of course, after all this is all wrapped up and Venom is gone, and he's not. There's loads of different ways they set up sequels in this movie, pointlessly. This is not getting a sequel. Um, Also, I didn't notice it before, but it looks like that seagull is going to hit him in the head. Okay. Um, it's seagulls. Trust me, they're everywhere people are. Um, but yeah, this it's clearly meant to be more touching than it is, but it is touching. Uh, that Eddie Brock went out of his way to get back to New York to give, in a sense, Venom his last wish, which was to see the Statue of Liberty. Okay, fine. One thing I didn't notice until my third rewatch was that the title for this movie never appears until the credits. And that's it. That's the only time for about 3-4 seconds that you actually get the credits. I will say the credit sequence, the animations, very funny. They go through a variety of different animals that Venom could bond to, including a kangaroo. I had to include this one because I just thought it was so funny that here we have a kangaroo standing on a flood of beer. Yeah, at least I hope that's beer. So there's two credit scenes. There's a mid-credit scene with Null, and yeah, that's Andy Serkis under there. I mean, Andy Serkis does have an ability to disappear into a character. Not so well used in this one, unfortunately. Uh, and then, of course, at the very, very final scene, they show the bartender discovering that he's now a member of the Fallout group. He's now in a Fallout video game. He just comes walking out and wanders off. Uh, yeah, it's strange to say the least. How he would have gotten out of whatever he was imprisoned in is beyond me. But hmm, we had to set up a sequel. So here's a cockroach and what's left of that broken vial. Yeah, yeah. In the mid credits, I did note that Null, sorry, not Mull, gets a slight monologue. Circus, like Hardy, yeah, he's doing his best with a not so great script. The post credits, the bartender gets a Fallout moment, and yeah, the "It Ain't Happening" Roach sequel thing shows up. Uh, Now, to be fair, it is possible, and I'll take my 15 pages of notes and put away now. Oh, trash can's too far away. We'll just put that there for now. Uh, but let me move that cursor. The site, there we go. Um, the sequel is not going to happen. That's extremely obvious to me, having watched this 3 times. Never happen again. Um, Not unless you guys pay me to do it again, and you'd have to pay me a lot. Like you'd have to buy out the merch store. Well, there's good timing. Here comes my Ko-Fi, and right after it'll be my Redbubble. But yeah, there's not going to be a sequel. That said, Spider-Man is still a popular character. Venom is obviously less popular, probably not even as popular as Deadpool. Uh, but the only good thing about this particular sequence and scene is that it does set up the possibility that Venom can get back to Eddie, so they can get back together. That would be good. Because as far as I understood from the earlier movie, if they're separated too long, they die. Yeah, not good. Uh, but the only thing I can see this really being used for is if Venom appears in another Spider-Man movie. Whether Marvel's going to make another one, I don't know, but who knows? Uh, but yeah, that's it for this. Bring that up and that. So that concludes the extreme odyssey I've had trying to get this video made since Sunday. Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm going to take very great. No, actually, I can't. I can delete that though. Deleting my note list again. That was nice. I enjoyed that. But yeah, after watching this movie 3 times, I have I have to give you a recommendation. I have to give it a grade. The best I can give it is 5 out of 10. It's half a movie. It's technically 2 movies, one of which shouldn't have been made. Uh, they could have cut out a significant amount of the hippie family. They didn't need to be there. A lot of seedy Christmas did not need to be in this movie. And from some of the dialogue between Ejiofor and Bacco, uh, at least I think it's Clark Bacco. That may have been a typo on the IMDb. But from their interactions, it really did seem to me like there was meant to have been some sort of pre-existing relationship between them, whether father daughter, some sort of romantic thing. I don't know. I will say it's very nice to see that Strickland's character was not being used for any sort of just random romantic thing. He was a hardcore professional soldier and played very well that way. Uh, I would say his performance is probably my favorite in the movie. Hardy, he did the job, uh, and he did what he was asked to do. He didn't just phone it in, so God bless him for that. Uh, Circus, same thing. I'm sure even Juno Temple and everybody else that was involved with this movie actually cared about how the movie was made. Clearly, the CGI team, I mean, they did knock it out of the park. I mentioned the animal handling earlier. That was impressive. Other than that, well, before I have to make my next video, which will be also out today because I need to do a Terra Nova Tuesday, yeah, uh, I will end this here. Uh, and yeah, other than that, I'll have this, excuse me, I'll have this posted as soon as I can. And I'm going to start trying to get these videos shorter. Yeah. Other than that, I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye bye. See you later today. And of course, then tomorrow. And I probably won't be able to sleep after all this work, so I might even stream tonight. Who knows? Bye bye.
Hello, party people. So I'm attempting to make a go of this whole content creation thing, and I could really use your support, either monetary or, just moral. Though by moral I mean please like and share, comment, send it out to your friends, your frenemies, your family, and your foes. In any case, another way you can support me, and I am changing my merch store over to Fourth Wall, which is why it still says Redbubble in the bottom. You also have the option to send me a tip on Ko-Fi. But in the meantime, until I get the Fourth Wall up, sorted, ready to go, I will be keeping the Redbubble store open for a little while. Some of the designs that are in the Redbubble store will not be repeated on Fourth Wall. In fact, I am considering moving to a somewhat more limited run sort of system for some of these designs. Some of them cease to be topical after a while. I still have a number of the, let's call it the disease with no name designs. In any case, I do appreciate any support you guys give me, even if it is simply sharing it or even liking and commenting. Every comment I see, I will respond to. Other than that, as always, I hope you're well and continue to be well. Rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.